Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
Head coach Chris Petersen led his BSU Broncos to another perfect season and a Fiesta Bowl win. So how's he going to top it? Find out. Stay tuned. Dialogue is next. Joan Cartan Hansen. Thank you for joining us here on Idaho Public Television, on the World Wide Web, and on public radio stations. Chris Petersen came to Boise State in 2000 as the program's offensive coordinator. He became head coach in 2006, the year the Broncos won that first Fiesta Bowl in what many consider to be the best football game ever played. For that victory and more, he was named the Paul Bear Bryant National Coach of the Year and the WAC Coach of the Year, a feat he repeated this year, the first time any football coach has won both prizes twice. The Broncos are expected to be one of the top 5 teams in the national preseason rankings next fall, suggesting the possibility of going for a national championship. Chris Petersen joins me now to look back at the last season and talk a bit more about what is to come. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thanks for having me on.
No pressure. National championship?
Yeah. You know, I think the thing that's interesting about that is, we put tremendous pressure on ourselves. It really doesn't matter what the outside noise has to say about us. We really have a lot of pressure on ourselves because of our standards that we try to operate by day to day. And those are the things I think that we really need to continue to focus on rather than our record, who we're playing, how it's going to go. I think if you get caught up in those things, you're heading down the wrong path.
Is there a way of putting it into perspective for your players? Because it's, the Bronco Nation is pretty excited.
Yeah, I think the way we do that is we just really focus on the process. We just really worry about what we can control, which is really how we prepare, how hard we work, and it's already started right now. And one of the things that maybe helps ease my mind and our coaches' minds is really how hard our kids are working right now. I think the one thing is people don't understand the commitment that these kids make to this program, to this university, to the state.
So explain it for us. What do they have to do?
It's year-round nowadays. It just really is. I mean, they are here year-round. They don't go home for the summer. They stay here and they take summer school to continue making sure that degree is getting taken care of, and then they work out all summer as well, let alone right now. I mean, we're up at 5, 2 days a week. They're in our indoor facility at 5:45 in the morning, running as hard as anybody's ever run that's played football. And so it is really, really a tough situation they go through.
Well, let's go back to last season. Let's take back I asked for email questions and Facebook questions from our viewers, and the one that came up the most often, they want to ask you about that famous play, the fake punt. Can you go back to that time and how did that play come about?
Yeah. Well, it started, we had run that play earlier in the year, a version of it against Hawaii, and we're real successful. Coach Jeff Choate is our special teams coordinator. And so he's really the one that calls it, suggests it, puts it in, coaches it up. And so we'd already run that, like I said, against Hawaii. But I think the thing that was so interesting about it is we had it for the Fiesta Bowl against TCU. And the first time we had it called, we did not have the look that we wanted from TCU. And so we called it off. But Jason Robinson is one of our players. And these are the type of players we have. He was the one that the fake punt went to the first time. So he could tell that they were spying him. And he comes back to the sideline after we had called it off and punted the ball away in the first half and said, Coach, I need to get outside of the formation. I need to spread out. And if they do that, they're going to give us the look we want. And so Coach Choate and I said, okay, let's do it. Next time we call it, do that. And sure enough, he's the one that really made the adjustment to make the thing work. But that's why we're able to do what we do. We have just tremendous kids and great coaches like Jeff Choate. To make it easy for me, that's for sure.
Was there another play in that Fiesta Bowl that you really looked to as a turning point in that game?
I don't look to any one play. I think there's a handful of plays that really show up, but I really think about really just in general how well our defense played. I don't think anybody really expected our defense to hold TCU to 10 points. And so they just played tremendous. I think our whole team did, because TCU has a tremendous defense in their own right. And I think as a team, special teams, offense, and defense, we did everything we needed to do to make one or two more plays than TCU did. And when you're playing a team of that caliber, a lot of people thought they should have been playing for the national championship. It's going to come down to one or two plays. And fortunately, our guys made the play.
Was the Fiesta Bowl your choice? If you had your choice of bowl games, was that the one you would have gone to?
I think it. First of all, we didn't really have the choice.
Yeah.
They just select you. But I think it probably would have been, because I think it's such a natural fit for our fans. And that's what makes it really, really fun and exciting. I mean, there's nothing like going into that stadium. And I was so prepared and so anxious to go into that stadium again, because the first time we went in there in the first Fiesta Bowl, I mean, it was overwhelming. It was like, are you kidding me? I mean, you could cut that energy. You could just feel it with it. And so I was so excited to go back. And I didn't know if it'd be the same, because, the first time you do anything, you kind of kick a door down. It's never the same. So I wasn't sure how it was going to be, but I think our fans and Bronco Nation was more intense and more passionate this time than the first time. I got a chance to see the TV copy of the game, and I was watching it with my wife, and everybody was standing up, and it was like in the first quarter, and I'm like, why is everybody standing up? What's going on? And she's like, you have no idea what goes on in the stands. Everybody stood the entire game. Nobody sat in their seats, and I'm like, yeah, that's how it should be.
Well, let's ask about defense. How we had a question from a viewer who wanted to know how. Let's see, if it's AK wanted to know if that was how big of a problem was it going to be losing Justin Wilcox.
Justin has done a tremendous job for us, and so that's always a problem a little bit. I think one of the things that I take so much responsibility and so serious is really the staff that we put together. But I think that we have such a tremendous staff, and we'll just talk about the defensive side of the ball, because that's where we lost Justin from. I think the way the staff was put together is it's just like this. I mean, so many people think that Boise State football is just about me, and it's not. I mean, I'm the guy that sits here and talks to you, and everybody goes, oh, it's him. Yeah, and it's not me. It starts with the players. It probably starts with our assistant coaches and then to the players. And so, Justin's a tremendous football coach, but we have some really good coaches on that side of the ball that are still with us. And Pete Kwiatkowski was elevated to the defensive coordinator without hesitation. And so we feel really good about him taking the reins over. And Jeff Choate and Marcel Yates have been here every step of the way and are every bit as responsible for what went on that side of the ball as Coach Wilcox was.
And another question came from Catherine. Do you believe there's a relationship between recruiting players who are not only good athletes but good students and your success as a team?
Tremendous correlation, in our opinion, and I think that's not the case everywhere. But one of the things we do in the recruiting process is certainly the type of player, the level of player we think gets our attention first. But that really gets our assistant coach's attention. By the time that I get the tape, we have a folder, and it's kind of a checklist, all things we're looking for. And one of the main things is the transcript. The high school transcript will be in there with a core GPA, not PE and all those other things. It's English, math, and the core. And so we want to know what that core is and what the test score is, an ACT or SAT. And if it's not very, very solid, then they know I'm going to say, so why are we recruiting this guy? Because we just really feel like a guy that takes care of business in the classroom is going to take care of business and do hard things on the football field, off the football field, and do things right. It's amazing the correlation between that, because I don't think that everybody loves school. And so that's okay. We tell them, hey, that's fine. I was one of those guys. I didn't love school, but as you get more mature and you go through it, you see the value of it, and you end up going to graduate school and doing some things. And we tell our kids that, hey, if you don't like it, that's fine, but you still need to get this done, because there's going to be many things in your life that are important that you have to do that you're not going to want to do that. This might be one of them.
How do you balance the character versus that NFL flash, that someone that who's really using this as a stepping stone to a pro career?
Hey, and I hope they all are. I mean, we try to be dream makers, and if that's everybody's dream on our team, which I hope it is, then if they have the God-given ability and they do all the things correctly along the 5-year process there with us. We are all about trying to get those guys there. But that doesn't mean that they can't get a great education and have a degree that's going to stick with them for their lifetime when they're done with football. But the reality is so few of them are actually going to get a chance to go do that. So, the process of doing things correctly and
well, one that might is Kyle Wilson. I guess the Chargers are looking as Kyle Wilson?
Well, they're all looking at Kyle Wilson right now. There's 32 NFL teams, and they're all. But he's a great example of that. I mean, he's got his degree, and his second to last semester at Boise State, he had a 4.0 GPA, and he's going to be, probably taken in the first, second, or third round. And so, he gets it. He gets it. I mean, and he's going to go play in the NFL for a while, but the degree and the experiences that he had at Boise State are going to stay with him for the rest of his life and help shape his whole career after he's done playing football.
The NCAA named your program as one of the five best family-friendly kind of programs, a program that approaches the process of learning and playing football as a group, as a team, more so than any other ones. How, is that the secret to your success? Is that when someone says, what makes BSU so successful? Is that it?
We get that question all the time, and it's just not that simple. You just can't explain it by one or two things. We always say it's nothing in particular, but everything in general. I mean, that's really what it is. It's just one thing on top of another. And we have people come in and look at our program and say, yeah, we're doing that, and we're doing that, and we kind of do that, and we're on the right track. And I think you can be on the right track but still be going the wrong direction, so to speak. And
tracks go both ways.
They do. And so it's, sometimes, success and failure is equally hard to truly describe and put your finger on it. And I don't think when you have some things that are going on like we've had at Boise State, you can't just say it's this one thing. It's not. It's just a lot of things that we've been blessed to have all stack up to be just right.
Well, let's talk about next season. What's going to be the toughest team to play against?
Well, I'll tell you what, that they're, you got your toughest teams on paper, that'll come in ranked and the history and tradition of their programs, and that probably starts with the team that we're going to open with, which is Virginia Tech.
Right. What are you doing to plan for Virginia Tech?
Our process is never different. It doesn't matter who we play on our schedule. It's always going to be the same. Our coaches and our players do a tremendous job of preparing. And that's where we spend all of our energy and all of our focus and all of our worry on the preparation. All the other stuff, we can't control all the other stuff. So we're just, we'll study the heck out of them, and we'll try to find as many tendencies and get a plan together that we think is the best way to attack them, and then we'll be excited to go play. And hopefully we have as good as athletes as they have and can make one more play than them.
Well, let me ask you about the strength of the schedule. That's all, you hear the commentators saying,
Yep.
Well, BSU doesn't have a very strong schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Is it actually tough to get teams to come play BSU? Are they, as the Bronco, are they scared of us?
Well, I don't know if they're scared of us, but I know this. It's not as easy, it's easier said than done, because a lot of the scheduling is done years in advance. Yeah. And then the other thing to make it a little bit tougher is, what we want to do is we want them, we'll go play at their place, but we want them to come to Bronco Stadium for sure. Our fans deserve that. And so for us to just go play a one-time shot, that's not what we're excited about. Now, you come back the next year, we're into that. And so to find those matchups, I mean, our stadium's not the biggest, but it's one of the toughest. I think people understand that, and so they're not so anxious to return the favor.
Is there someone you'd like to play?
No, not in particular. We like to play. We want to play the good teams. We really do. I think our kids do. I mean, the players, they get excited about playing, Oregon States and Virginia Techs and, all those teams. They really do. They want to play them. And I think this year our schedule is going to be as good and as challenging as it's ever been.
Who's next after Virginia?
So Wyoming's in there,
right, yeah.
And also Toledo's in there.
Okay.
And so those will be our 4 non-conference games, and then we play the WAC schedule. And so those 4 plus the WAC schedule, we got our work cut out for us. And it's very hard to say who's going to be your toughest game, because it's always, sometimes on paper, like I say, you know who's tough on paper, and you're going to have a hard-fought game there. And then, everybody's not expecting this team down the schedule to do much. But we also understand there's a tremendous bullseye on our chest. And we're going to, we seem to get into dogfights maybe when people are thinking, how is this happening? That's college football.
Have more teams been willing to talk about playing since the program has grown and expanded and done so well?
Yeah, that question, Gene Blamer, our athletic director, he does all the scheduling there, and he asks us, hey, what do you think about this? And we're like, yeah, or are they going to return the favor? Those type of things. So he'd probably have to answer that. But I know the scheduling is just not as easy as people think. Hey, go get these guys and make a home and home. And so much of it has to do with money. One of the problems is our stadium is so small that we can't pay teams a lot of money to come here and pay us. And so usually that's what happens, and that's another problem in the puzzle.
Okay, the Pac-10 is looking at expanding. How is that going to reshuffle the deck?
Well, if they do expand, it's going to reshuffle the deck. I have no idea exactly how, but I know it will, because the last time when a couple teams jumped from league to league, I mean, the trickle-down effect was quite felt around the country, and so those things are very hard to predict. But if a Pac-10 or a Big Ten or SEC, if they ever start to realign things, it affects everybody.
Is there a conference you'd like to play in?
I like the WAC conference. I mean, that's the conference that we are in, and so I'm all about playing in that conference. If things change and make more sense for Boise State, those are really questions and problems for Dr. Kustra and Gene Blameyer to solve.
I had a question from John, who wants to know, should there be a Division I football championship playoff system instead of the BCS?
Yeah, well, I think everybody agrees there should be, but I don't think anybody has come up with how to get that done.
Now, when you were on the show last time, you said you didn't want a playoff.
And I'm okay to not have it. I really am. I really, really like the bowl games, the experience for the players. I think it's tremendous. I mean, those guys will remember the Fiesta Bowl for as long as they live. And not only that, I mean, I had a player a couple years ago talk about the experience that they had and we had when we went to Hawaii and played in the Aloha Bowl and lost. It was one of the most painful games that I'd been in part of for a long time, because we didn't play well the first half, and we made it very exciting towards the end. But when you don't win those games, it's not a lot of fun. But the players were talking about that afterwards. A couple months later, Coach, I'm never going to forget our time over in Hawaii. And we play over there during the regular season, but yet those bowl experiences, that to me is part of college football. And when you take that out and you go into a playoff system, it'll change that. But I think everybody at the end of the day wants to solve it on the field. I don't think I'm any different than that, but just how to do that. We played 14 games this year. We had more injuries. We have guys that are still recovering, and so you're trying to figure out with school, with finals, with really the physicalness of the game, how to keep doing this. And I've seen some proposals, but I think there's holes in them.
When do you think they might come up with is it just going to get batted around for another year?
Oh yeah, I think it's still a couple years out. But we're making progress. I mean, I really feel like that. I mean, the BCS, you're getting the better teams in there, and it's probably going to start with a +1. So they'll take, after the bowl games, maybe the top 2 ranked teams and go from there. And people would think that we would be the biggest proponents of a playoff or a situation like that. But I think about the last time we won the Fiesta Bowl and the time before, we still probably would have been left out of that puzzle. We still weren't ranked high enough for a 4-team playoff even.
I did have someone who wanted to know, what do you really think of the Idaho Vandals?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. Let's see how diplomatic you'll be.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. They're in our league, so when they play outside of our league, we always want those guys to win, because it gives our league credibility, which again comes back to Boise State having more credibility. I even think it's okay when they're playing in our league and they win, because I think that generates a lot of interest in state, which again comes back to Boise State. Hey, the only time I'm not about them is when we play them.
They did a great job in the Humanitarian Bowl.
They
was
did
incredible.
yeah, they really did. They played well, and Coach Akey's done a great job up there, changing that whole culture, and he's got them believing, and they're playing well. And I'm just one of those guys that I think when other teams, your opponents do well, and raise the bar, that's going to help you some way. I mean, now you got to raise the bar. That competition is healthy. It's the American way, and it's not like, hey, we want everything and you get not. I think back and forth is healthy.
You've got 23 starters returning this year. That's an incredible number of kids to be coming back in the program, which is why they're ranking. How have you designed your program so that you can keep those starters, that keep the depth and keep it moving?
Well, I got to be honest. It's looking good for the present, but it's not necessarily by design. We have one of our classes, last class that we had, our senior class, we graduated 5 guys. Right. That's not really what we want. That we'd like to balance them out over a 5-year period, maybe 15 to 17 guys in each class. When you put 5 in the one class, then 1 or 2 classes is going to be very loaded up. So right. We're going to pay the price a little bit down the road. So we're in the process of trying to get our numbers equaled out. For the time being, it's good. It's good for the present, but for us, we got to look at that big picture and get that fixed a little bit.
In the WAC, most of the quarterbacks are coming back, so they'll have that experience. How is your quarterback? I mean, he's been Kellen's been amazing as he's grown and developed. What was it about him that you saw back then?
Well, I think recruiting and really knowing what you're getting is one of the hardest things about this job. There's so much of the puzzle that you're speculating and trying to figure out, hey, is this really our guy? I mean, I think the athletic part of things is the easy part to figure out, and that's really only half of it. I mean, it's how competitive is this guy? How tough is this guy? What is his desire to be the best? Is he going to get homesick? Does he miss his girlfriend? Does he miss his mom? Does he miss his dog? And all those things are usually yes. And just to what degree can you keep him focused? Then, once you answer those questions, you get here, and it's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid going through college, and it's hard, and there's a lot of things that go on that. So, that's why it's so hard to put this all together. But, with Kellen one, he was a tremendous high school football player. And then I think all the intangibles now, looking back, is very easy to see. But we start with just the character of the kid and the family he comes from. Tremendous family. And, you like to take your chances when you got a good player that is an extremely high character guy, loves football, studies it, cares about other people. Kellen fit the mold on all those things. And then, he's probably even a little bit of a better player than we anticipated.
So what is it about football that you like?
That's a good question. I like, it's very much teaching, and not just, our subject isn't necessarily just football. And I know this sounds a little bit corny, but it's really life. What's nice about it, rather than being, a professor at Boise State or an 8th grade teacher, is we really have these guys' attention at all times. Because they're so into football, they love it, it's part of their life and who they are, and they grew up with it, and they're very into it. And so everything that we talk about, we put into football terms, whether we're teaching the game, and we love the game. It's very competitive, it's a lot more complex than people think, so that's very challenging and intriguing. But then you got these kids that you're also really trying to develop and raise, not just as we always tell them, hey, the football part of stuff takes care of itself. The wins will take care of themselves if you'll do everything else that we're asking you to do. And that has to do with, being a good person and growing and being a great student and a great teammate and weathering adversity and all those things that are going to come down the pipe in life later if you haven't already had them. So that's the best thing. It's very multifaceted job, and I like that.
A lot of people ask the question, what is it going to take to lure you away from Boise State? Mm-hmm. And what can we do to prevent that? But for me, a colleague here at Public Television came with an answer. Does it hurt your feelings when people ask you, how long are you going to stay with us?
I kind of chuckle at that sometimes. I have mixed emotions when I get that question.
Is it like a bad date?
It depends who's asking me that. When people from the outside are asking me that, I kind of sometimes I get offended because I don't think they know what we have here. You know, they assume it's little old Boise State, and that, you know, then the hair on my back of my neck stands up, and you know, I say, you guys don't understand how it is, how things have changed here. You know, one of the issues is we've only played Division I football for about 14 years, and so we're so new to this, and so a lot of people don't know how we've grown and changed, and the fact that we can compete with a lot of people around the country. So I think you're missing something here. Hey, we are the big time. We are big boys. And so when certain people are asking me that, I take offense. When people around here ask me that, I don't as much. But, you know, I think when they kind of understand the things that, you know, make it exciting for me and our coaches to be here, it makes sense.
Is there anything that would lure you away?
You know, probably. I don't know what that is, though. And there's not a job out there that we're going, okay, if that came open, that's the one that I would want to go to. But I think the thing is as you go through life, you know, you change. And there's certain things in your life that change. Just that, you know, you may just need a change. And so I'm certainly not at that point and haven't been, obviously, for a while. That's why I've been so good to just stay here. But, you know, that's the beauty of life. You just don't know how it's going to change for you. The one thing you do know is it's going to change.
So we're almost out of time, so let's get a prediction.
Okay.
I know, I have to ask you. What's next season going to be like? What's your guess?
Yeah, I don't think like that.
You know?
I don't think like that in terms of predicting the record or anything like that. I just think about what do we need to do? You know, where are our weaknesses? Where are our strengths? How do we play to those? And how do we keep everybody unified? Because there'll be some adversity that's going to come down the pipe every season like it does. Just like we had it this year. We had tremendous amount of injuries, but we were able to weather those. You know, whether we lose a game or two, you know, how we stick together and still play to the best of our abilities. So, I mean, my prediction is that we'll have a very good season. You know, record-wise, I never know that.
Does the pressure worry you?
Yeah, I feel a real responsibility to perform at a high level and to really be at our best at all times. And I think if we can be at our best at all times, we're going to win most of our games and keep the Bronco Nation happy. But we feel that pressure.
Well, Coach, thank you. I know we'll ask a few more questions on our web program that we'll be taping right after this, so you can check that out on the web. If you want to learn more about Chris Petersen and the BSU Bronco football team, you can go to the Dialogue website. There you'll find more information and links and that web-only conversation with the coach. So go to idahoptv.org and click on Dialogue. You'll also find us on Facebook, and you can search for us at Idaho Public Television and become a fan. And you can also look for us on YouTube. So thanks for tuning in, and join us here next time for Dialogue.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. To order a copy of this program from Idaho Public Television, call our toll-free number or visit us on the World Wide Web.